A report just dropped that has billion-dollar luxury companies scrambling to do damage control. And I'm not talking about a few negative reviews or a bad quarter. I'm talking about a comprehensive investigation that pulled back the curtain on practices the luxury industry desperately wanted to keep hidden. Consumer Reports, alongside independent luxury experts, just released findings that are making CEOs sweat. And honestly, what they found is way worse than anyone expected. See, we've all been sold this beautiful story about luxury brands, the heritage, the craftsmanship, the exclusivity. You're not just buying a bag or a watch, you're buying a piece of history, right? But this new report reveals that some of the world's most prestigious brands have been playing a very different game behind those polished storefronts and Instagram campaigns. And the timing couldn't be worse for them, because this isn't coming from some random blogger or competitor trying to stir drama. This is coming from consumer protection experts with receipts, real data, former employees speaking out, independent lab testing, the whole 9 yards. But here's where it gets really interesting. The investigation focused on 15 major luxury brands across watches, handbags, jewelry, and fashion. Names you'd recognize instantly. Brands that charge $5,000 for a handbag or $20,000 for a watch. And what the experts found was a systematic pattern of practices that directly contradict everything these companies claim to stand for. But first up, the quality myth. You know how luxury brands justify those insane price tags by talking about superior materials and meticulous craftsmanship? Well, independent lab testing revealed that several high-end leather goods, we're talking $3,000 plus handbags, were using materials virtually identical to mid-tier brands that cost a fraction of the price. Same leather grade, same hardware quality, sometimes even the same suppliers. One luxury house that prides itself on century-old Italian craftsmanship was found to be outsourcing 60% of its production to the same factories making fast fashion knockoffs. The markup? Over 1,200%. You're not paying for better materials. You're paying for a logo and a story. But wait, it gets messier. The report uncovered what they're calling manufactured scarcity 2.0. We all know luxury brands create artificial demand by limiting supply. That's nothing new. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. Several brands were reportedly holding back perfectly finished products, not to maintain exclusivity, but to manipulate secondary market prices. Think about it. You walk into a boutique and they tell you there's an 18-month wait list for that watch or bag you want. You're devastated, right? Meanwhile, insiders reveal that warehouses are sitting on inventory. Why? Because when those items finally hit the market, they're worth more. The scarcity drives up resale values, which makes the brand look even more desirable, which justifies the next price increase. It's brilliant and kind of evil. Now, this next part is where the report went from interesting industry drama to holy crap, this is actually serious. The investigation traced supply chains for several luxury jewelry and watch brands, and what they found in some cases was, let's just say it's not the romantic story of master craftsmen in Swiss workshops that you see in the commercials. One prominent jewelry brand that markets itself as ethically sourced was linked to gemstone suppliers with documented labor violations. We're talking about people working in conditions that would make you never want to wear that $15,000 necklace again. The brand's response? They claimed they had robust oversight mechanisms, but the experts found gaps in their auditing process you could drive a truck through. And it's not just the supply chain. Former employees from multiple luxury watch manufacturers came forward describing what they called quota pressure, being pushed to meet production targets that made thorough quality control nearly impossible. One ex-employee from a brand famous for perfection in every detail said they were sometimes assembling movements so fast that minor imperfections were just accepted, marked as within tolerance when they probably shouldn't have been. These aren't $50 watches, by the way. These are timepieces selling for tens of thousands of dollars, and you're being told every single component is inspected by a master watchmaker who's trained for decades. But the reality? Some of these watches are moving through production lines faster than you'd imagine, with quality checks that are more about speed than actual perfection. Here's where it gets uncomfortable for the brands. So this report goes live, and within 48 hours, the luxury industry basically loses its mind. PR teams working overtime, legal departments sending cease and desist letters to anyone sharing the report, CEOs suddenly scheduling emergency transparency initiatives. One brand even tried to claim the testing methodology was flawed, until Consumer Reports released the full data set and invited them to replicate the tests independently. They declined. Stock prices for several luxury conglomerates dipped immediately. Not catastrophically, but enough to get shareholders asking very pointed questions during earnings calls. Because here's the thing, the entire luxury business model depends on perception. The moment people start questioning whether they're actually getting what they're paying for, the whole house of cards gets wobbly. Social media went absolutely nuclear. Luxury influencers who'd been posting haul videos and unboxings suddenly found themselves in the comments getting roasted. You paid $4,000 for a bag made in the same factory as Zara? People who'd saved for months or gone into debt for these items felt betrayed. And honestly, you can't blame them. Major business outlets picked up the story. Forbes, Bloomberg, the Wall Street Journal, everyone wanted a piece. Because this wasn't just about expensive handbags. This was about an entire industry built on mystique and aspiration potentially being exposed as less magical than advertised. But here's what nobody expected to happen next. After the initial chaos died down, something interesting emerged. Industry insiders, not just angry ex-employees, but current executives, designers, and even some brand founders, started speaking more openly. And what they revealed was actually more nuanced than luxury brands are scamming you. See, the report is absolutely accurate in its findings. The quality issues, the supply chain problems, the artificial scarcity, all real. But several insiders pointed out that the luxury industry has been dealing with an impossible tension for decades. On one hand, you have heritage brands that built their reputation on actual craftsmanship. On the other hand, you have shareholders demanding 15 to 20% growth every single year. Those two things don't naturally coexist. When your grandfather's watch company made 500 watches a year with 10 master craftsmen, yeah, every piece was probably perfect. But when private equity buys that company and demands you produce 50,000 watches a year while maintaining the handmade by masters narrative, something's gotta give. One former creative director put it bluntly, "We're asked to scale artisanal production to industrial levels while pretending we're still a small atelier. It's impossible." So corners get cut, and marketing tells a story that's becoming less true every year. And that's the real revelation here. It's not that every luxury brand is deliberately scamming customers. It's that the entire industry has been caught in a slow-motion collision between authenticity and capitalism. So where does this leave us? The report isn't going to destroy the luxury industry. People will still buy Rolex watches and Hermès bags and Cartier jewelry. But something has fundamentally shifted. The mystique has cracks in it now. The story luxury brands have been selling, that you're paying for something genuinely superior, genuinely exclusive, genuinely worth 10 times or 20 times the price, is harder to believe with a straight face. Some brands are already pivoting, talking more about transparency, opening up about their supply chains, acknowledging that yes, some production is outsourced, But here's exactly where and how. The smart ones realize that the old playbook of "trust us, we're luxury" doesn't work anymore when consumers have access to independent testing and insider testimonies. The billion-dollar companies that are panicking right now, they're the ones who built their entire business on smoke and mirrors, the ones who'll survive and even thrive when they're the ones willing to be honest about what you're actually getting for your money. Because here's the thing. Luxury isn't dead. People will always want beautiful things. But we're entering an era where luxury brands are going to have to earn that premium through actual value, not just through marketing mythology and artificial scarcity. This report might be shaking billion-dollar companies right now, but honestly, it's probably the best thing that could have happened to the industry long-term. A little truth never hurt anybody. Well, except maybe the CEOs trying to explain those profit margins. If this kind of deep dive into the industries that run our world is your thing, hit subscribe, because we're just getting started exposing what really happens behind the luxury curtains. Drop a comment if you've ever felt burned by a luxury purchase. I want to hear your stories. See you in the next one.